Here we go. Let's dive into it. So, number one is going to be to silence your phone. Uh, I never really realized until I started silencing my phone how many distractions come from there. So I work from my computer quite often. A lot of times I like the larger screen. I like to have the keyboard. I like to be able to sit in a comfortable position. But I always have my phone right next to me. And even though I keep my phone on vibrate, the phone lights up when the notifications go off. I'll hear the vibration when the notification goes off. Somebody leaves a comment. I get an email from some company that I'm on a list that I'm not even in that zone at that time. So one of the biggest time stealers that I found was the phone. So if your phone does not have a do not disturb mode, I highly suggest you turn it off. On the iPhone, I have a do not disturb mode. I'm able to click the little moon icon and it turns it off for me. If you have people out there that you're worried about missing calls from, at least on the iPhone, I know you can set certain people to allow that call or that email from them to be able to come in through do not disturb mode. But honestly, like this was a huge one because what ends up happening is when we get these notifications, our focus shifts. And then next thing you know, you're in a loop and you're scrolling, you're replying to an email, and you're totally taken off task of what it is that you were working on. So silence that phone when you are in the zone. When you're trying to get into the zone, make sure you go ahead and take some time to silence that phone so you can get in it. This next one is going to vary depending on your work condition. And I talked about this recently with some friends who doesn't have a dedicated workspace. So I'm fortunate at this point in my life to be able to have a dedicated workspace. I can close the door. I don't have any distractions at all. My kid's grown, so I'm in a different space and I know everybody is not at that place yet. So if you can't close the door, then you're going to have to end up setting up some boundaries with the communication. Talk to your family, talk to your kids, talk to anybody who is sharing that space with you, and just let them know, hey, from this time to this time, it doesn't have to be the same time every day, but on this day, from this time to this time, like I need some silence and I need to be able to focus. And you'd be surprised just by communicating that it will be respected. You have to set up the boundaries. Even if you don't have the ability to be able to close your doors and shut yourself out and away from everything and everybody, at least communicate that you need that space and let that habit start being developed. Let your family know if you need to focus on something and you need some quiet time and you don't want to be disrupted for an amount of time. It's going to take some time to catch on, especially if you haven't established that boundary already. But if you communicate that and you practice that on a regular basis, you'll get there and you'll see that your boundaries will be respected. So this one right here was the one for me. It was hard. It was very hard because so like, and sometimes I'll sit there and think, I'm like, man, I wish I'm not going to even say the words. I'm just going to say this. Like, multitasking for me is like something that I've operated in a very, very long time. And I was so sure that I can prove that I can be productive and be efficient and multitask. Like you really do think you can convince yourself that that's what you're doing. And it wasn't true. I'm sorry, y'all. It's just not true. Trust me, I've been trying for all these years. But I had to stop multitasking. What does multitasking look like for me? That could be, y'all know when I'm doing my screen share sometimes and I have like multiple tabs open, I'll have a tab open for a video that I'm editing. Then I'll have an email open in another tab. But then I have my iPhone messages popping up on my screen because my computer's synced up. So then I'll get a response to a text message and then I'm replying there. Multitasking. And guess what? Ain't none of those three things, the things that I talked about, the thing that I'm actually focusing on at that moment. So you have to stop multitasking. I highly recommend that you do it and just focus on one task at a time. I was recently listening to, was it Brian Tracy? I think it was Brian Tracy, one of the old school empowerment coaches, and he was talking about focus. And he's about so many businesses fail because business owners don't know how to focus. And it was a gut check. It was a cold slap because I'm like, dang, that's me. I'll be doing too much at one time. So I've been focusing on focus for the past couple of weeks, which led to me sharing this with you. But multitasking is that rabbit hole for me, trying to do multiple things at one time. And it's just not possible to do multiple things at one time well. That's what it is. You might get 10% here, 15% there, 20% here. But like, if you really want to get stuff done and be on point, like you need to give your attention to whatever that main task that you're doing at that moment 100%. Okay. So do your best to stop the multitasking going into the new year. We got to get focused, y'all. Next is removing internal distractions. This is another one, especially if you're a creative person, if you're someone who always has a racing mind, you always have ideas popping in and you want to just implement and execute these things the moment they come up. Idea comes, you firing off a text message to people, hey, let's do this, let's do that. And that is another one of those things that just takes away from your time and takes away from your focus on what you're doing at that moment. So what you can do in that case is just to go ahead and write those things down. Okay. Um, they If you write them down, you don't have to worry about losing them. So like I know that's one of the reasons why we hurry up and jump into this other mode and we shift, because I don't want to lose this thought. But have like depending on how you are, if you're a paper person, if you're computer person, like have something next to you so you can jot these random thoughts down so that they don't take you off track and you can revisit them later. I recently started using within my Gmail account. On the right hand side on the computer, of course, they have one of the icons for task, and you can actually put tasks there, and you can then put dates and times to those tasks if you want to come back to them at a specific time, and it'll add it to your Google Calendar. So we still getting a little bit of tech talk in here, but that's something that I've been using lately. Like you can put the description in there, set the date and the time that you want to be reminded of it, and it's there within the email. So I've been loving that. But those little random internal distractions will get you and they'll take you off track. And then you're down a whole nother rabbit hole that you didn't intend to go down. So just go ahead and write those things down when that occurs to you. Okay. Now, here is another one of those things that I had to learn how to do without feeling guilty, and that's taking breaks. I used to feel guilty, and it doesn't seem right that you would take a break when you're working on something and trying to focus on something. But I would feel guilty for like stepping away from the computer to go for a walk or to go and, even if it's just to watch a television show for maybe like 15, 30 minutes or something like that, I would feel guilty about it. Friends would call and be like, hey, do you want to go to lunch? Or, hey, you got a minute, you want to chat? And I'm like, oh, I got to do something. Like, I got to really focus on this. And some of the times, like, yeah, there are times in the middle of something where you need to do that, but then you also need to kind of schedule that time for you to take a break from the work. And what's so crazy about that, when I started doing that, realizing that that break served me way more than if I had tried to keep on pressing on when I wasn't in a good mind state. So schedule the break if you need to, so that you don't have to feel guilty about it. But then, like, you're giving yourself some time and your mind some time to be able to transition from one thing to the other. That's been very helpful. And oftentimes, I come back with a whole nother level of clarity. Something would occur within that break time that I come back and I'm just like, oh, wow, like I have a whole new burst of energy now because I stepped away for a moment and allow myself some other opportunities to just kind of tune into something else in a different way and come back more creative and more fired up. So don't feel guilty. Take the break. Do the breaks. All right. And then last but not least, I'm going to say meditate, meditation, reset, whatever that looks like for you. Just taking that time to be alone with your thoughts and allowing yourself to just be present in the moment. I never realized how powerful it was to take a moment just to sit and listen to the wind, or just to sit and watch the clouds go by. So, I'll take time throughout the day, usually around lunchtime, I'll go outside and I'll just sit and I'll be quiet. I won't have my phone. I won't have the things on, and just kind of like take nature in at that moment. And that in itself, without doing anything, just allows me to be able to kind of reground myself, to be able to refocus and to renew. Like, it's actually very renewing for me to be able to take those kind of moments. Now, I know that a lot of people might find meditation difficult. So some of the things that you can do if you want help with that, there are a number of different apps out there that you can go to. YouTube has channels that have meditation combined with affirmations or guided meditations and music. So there's a number of things that you can go out there to try to to find some kind of way to kind of help you calm down. What works for me best is really just kind of being quiet and being with nature. Listen to the trees, the wind, even if it's traffic, just the fact that I'm taking a moment right there to take in my surrounding and let my senses do what my senses do in that moment have been a huge help for me. So those are six things that you can do to kind of make some corrections in your habits, make some improvements in your day, just to kind of make life a little bit easier, and start getting ready to focus on those big dreams and those big goals